How's it going, guys, and welcome back for the last time, sadly, of Spiritfarer. We actually finished up just about everything that we can do in the game, so unfortunately, this is going to be the very last time we're playing this game. Or last time we're streaming, at least. Let me make sure OBS looks dark for a second, so let me make sure that's showing appropriately. Hey Gavin. Evening, my guy. He said also you can go to Alt Harbor for a nice surprise. Oh, fixed up that place. So we can do that real quick. Right? That's what you're talking about? Probably. So we'll go right back to Furugawa. And then we're gonna do a beeline for release quests. I like that we got his move maxed out. Yeah. Alright, Harbor is right here, yeah? Yeah, so it is that thing that I was talking about. Yeah, so we'll finally be able to go see that town be completely fixed up. It's pretty cool, actually, because that thing's been destroyed since the beginning of the game, basically. It's one of the first few places we checked out. I don't know if I'm ready, guys. This is gonna be really depressing. This is gonna be a really depressing episode. Let's see. Dark charcoal. Yeah, I feel kind of stupid last time. I forgot entirely that you can just cook wood to get freaking charcoal. We should have been doing that the whole time we were playing alone, but it don't matter. How close are we? Sweet. The game volume's a bit loud? Okay, let me fix that. There we go. Alright, let me know if that's better. Oh, it all looks boarded up still. Oh. I think we didn't turn in that quest though until last stream, so that's probably why. But other than the quest, it's just gonna be a nice, relaxing journey until we get there. Yeah, I don't know why it's not renovated yet. Yeah. I think it's just because we turned in the quest later than we normally would. That's all. Which is funny too, after we crashed that night, all the other quests, literally we just had to go turn in quests. They weren't actually quests we had in the berry one. So it's actually pretty easy to kind of get everything finished. Hopefully we get there before day comes, because that would suck. Something I'm noticing too, I don't know if it's a glitch or something, but I'm noticing like the daylight cycle and the progress meter, like on going to places, isn't there anymore. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, I caught up today on your last stream. Heck yeah. It's pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. Do we have to talk to her there, I think? Yeah, that's right. Last time we had to do that at one of the shrines, right? Where we got an ability or something. The time that where I did it by accident. Run quick before morning comes. That was weird. I got caught on nothing. Yeah. It makes you look well-traveled, sis. Listen up, because I'm gonna read your embarrassing postcard. Let me find my famous Stella voice. 1 second. My trip has been amazing so far. I'm even making friends. What a boring thing to say. At this rate, the summer vacation will be gone in a flash. Last weekend I went to Shirakawa to go, in the Toyama prefecture. I took a tour to visit these beautiful rice paddies. It was an impressive sight. Next to these incredible houses at the bottom of the mountains. It was especially beautiful at night with the glow of the moon. Oh, Stella, you perv? What? He's an art curator from Germany. He's creating an art exhibition in Nagasaki. The tour was in Japanese, so he helped me with some of the nuances. He gave me his address and invited me to a show. I miss you all. P.S. Stay out of my room, Lily. I didn't. Wow. You were so outgoing. I don't remember ever being like that. So full of life. I was always a bit dramatic, let's say. I wonder if you went to see Gustav's exhibition. That was his name, right? We never got to go on that trip to see you. Dad got sick around that time. He had trouble walking. His body was swelling and everything hurt him. I never understood why they kept it from you. They probably knew you'd come back as soon as they told you. To take care of him. I got to see Dad get sicker and sicker. I wasn't able to do anything to help. I still remember your face when you got home. For a second, it was like you didn't recognize him. Let's keep going. It's not like you've ever shied away from death. You basically made it your whole world. I'm sure you've got some pictures of when you moved back to Montreal. Let's take a look. I love this because we're finally we've gotten like hints of it throughout the game. But this is the first time like we're just straight up. Aside from maybe Gwen's quest and stuff, first time we're getting like just straight up story about Stella herself, which I think is really interesting. It's also really sad, man, because I get it, you know? You don't want your, you know, kid to waste their life, you feel like, right? Like, I don't want them to be stuck here because of me, but... Man, I'm gonna tell you, you would want to be there for your family in those last moments, you know what I mean? Like, you can't replace that. Well, if you have family, that is. Ah, that would suck, man. On the Switch you can toggle day and night and distance meter on or off. Oh, the Switch you can? Interesting. I wonder if I accidentally toggled it. Is there a toggle here for it? Let me see. It's not in the main menu, is it? Let me know, because if it's daytime and we could just toggle it tonight, that would make this a lot easier, a lot faster. For sure. Alright, so next one is an Oxbury. Yeah. You think toggle Z? Okay. Oh, okay, so it toggles the actual menu itself, but we can't just flip the switch tonight, unfortunately. I wish. Alright, let's go. become day. I feel like it's gonna become day, like right before we get there. Come on. Nice. Hopefully we can make it there. Hopefully we can make it there in time. Nice boys. Yeah, no, I probably could hit that thing up top that made it a lot better, but oh, here we go. We got it, so we're good. That's your first Montreal apartment, isn't it? When you moved out of the house to the big city. My big sister striking out on her own. Yeah, that place was such a dump. Sorry, sis. It was. You can decorate it all you wanted. It would always smell whatever your neighbors were cooking. Can you smell what your neighbors are cooking? And you could hear them yelling at each other. Your rent was probably so cheap. Plus you were all alone. No roommates. Well, not quite alone, with Daffodil. I don't remember us talking that much during that time. You were busy with work. I was still in high school, not paying much attention. I don't think we had much in common. Except death, maybe. For me, after Dad, I had to do something about it. I was trying to shut it out, but it kept coming anyways. I don't know how you can deal with it constantly. Working at the hospital with people at the end of their lives. Around you all the time. Helping those people who are suffering in front of your eyes. There was Summer. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. She did not go quick. That cancer stayed inside her and took its time. It even gave her some hope. But it came back harsher. Mom was devastated. It's probably for the best that Rose wasn't around to see it. Losing her dear Summer would have broken her heart. I remember going to Summer's house with Mom. With all those plants and that heat. It was like a sauna. She said something about the body being like all living things, especially plants. I just remember being mad and sweating a lot. Then there were the friends we made along the way. That Giovanni and his wife Astrid. To hear you talk about them, they were basically your adoptive grandparents. And the stories that would come out of their mouths. The cheating, the lies, the heartbreak. All those headaches. Can you imagine what Giovanni put Astrid through? But she was right at his side at the end. Even if she had moved on. Even if she had found someone else. He was her one and only Gio. They both knew that they only had each other in the end. That's how I want to go out, sis. Holding the hand of the one I adore. I think I need a refill. Maybe stretch my legs a bit. I'll be back in a minute. Don't you go anywhere. I'm telling you, I gotta stretch my legs in a bit. I'm telling you, Stella is like incapacitated in a hospital and not actually dead. Lily keeps sounding like she's talking to her comatose sister. You know what I mean? Like, I swear. There's something to that theory that I've had for a while. There's gotta be something to that. 110%. Because I got that vibe way long time ago. And that just like made, come on, man. If it's not, they're, I don't know, dude. Obviously don't tell me anything. But that theory I had is getting stronger. Grey Mist Peaks is next. Okay, so since it's daytime, I'm actually gonna have us... Oh wait, no it's not, no it's not, no it's not. We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it in time for sure. But just because it's not daytime yet, we're at least gonna try. Gosh dang it, yeah it is, okay. What I was gonna say is that, since it's daytime and we want the whole day to pass, we will naturally, like, go here. Like, just sail there normally. That way, hopefully, the day passes by quickly. Let's see. I don't think there's anything new here, but there's Stingman charts, I think. Yeah. Do we have anything new here? We might have, like... Well, we had Jackie's already. We just didn't have his picture. I'm assuming, yeah. So, yeah. Nothing new here in the filing cabinet, it looks like. Is there a point in going inside this? I don't think there is. I think this was kind of just like a joke house from Beverly's quest line. Having a clock is kind of cool though, but not exactly super useful. Now we gotta pass the time. Oh yeah, I forgot we can make glass. Why not? Oh, do we not have coal? There we go. Maybe a little bit lower. Nice. Let's go explore around the town while we're here. Or, well, the peaks, the mountains. Since we gotta pass the time anyway. Oh! Little too early. Is there anything over here? No. Oh, hey, what up? Peach, garlic, tomato, onion. This is terrible. I don't even know how to go back. There's a dev secret at Grimace Peaks. Oh, is there? Ooh, that makes me curious. A dev secret. What if we go all the way in one direction to the left? Curious. Those remind you of Hunter x Hunter? Anybody? Nice. Parkour champion. It'll be as high as you can go to the right. I was wondering about that, to be honest with you. Okay, let's wait for that reset. Oh wait. Oh wait, there we go. As high as you can go, you say. I think that might be like the max. I've seen this here before, so I don't know if this is what you're talking about. Probably not. Okay, so maybe we gotta go to the right again? I don't think I can climb this at all to get any more height. That's it? Oh, okay, yeah, I actually seen that before. What's the dev secret with it? Because we've talked to this guy, and I know he gave us like a fake, like a fake upgrade or whatever, a thing with it. Please don't tell anyone. It's from one of their other games? Oh, cool. Okay. Maybe we'll have to add that to the list and play one of those another time then. That way we can actually get the reference. Nice. So, you gonna save us anytime soon? Not in a hurry or anything, but, you know, chosen one and stuff. Right? As soon as night comes, man. That's all I'm waiting for. Oh, whoops. Oh, wait, no, that was it. Okay. Oh, it doesn't bring it high at all. Poor Daffodil. Just stuck in the water. Oh, those look like birds for a second. Luckily, the next part of that dial, I think, technically counts as an arc. At least whenever I see her spawn in, so. As soon as that flips over, we hopefully will be able to start the next one. Actually can't click on it. That's one thing, unfortunately, that I probably won't waste, like, really use my time on unless I use, like, an online wiki or something. Is, like, cooking one of everything, you know what I mean? It just feels like it would take too long to find, like, the individual, you know what I mean, recipes for, like, every single food item. I wonder if time passes faster when you're doing an activity. Let's see. I use the wiki for Susan's? Yeah, exactly. That's probably what I would do too. It's kind of like one of those why not, because it's not like, it's not a challenge, you know what I mean, per se. It's literally just rinse and repeat, non-stop until you get it. Well, some other stuff's done. Gross. Expired food. Oh no. Oh, that was probably the herring, the fish that I put in there. Let's try to put a yogurt in one. And I think milk makes yogurt, so I'll just do that. Let's see what happens. Because why not? The only thing I want to avoid, though, is taking too long here, because we obviously want to start the cutscene as soon as possible. Because if we have another one that has to be night, we want as much time as possible to get to the next location before day comes. So, I do want to try to do this to pass time, but I don't want to take too long. Record time, let's go. Wait. Okay. I think I can wait, yeah. Okay, so it's not at, like, sunset, it's only, like, when it hits the night one, okay. For some reason, I thought when we were playing before, I saw her, like, spawn during this period. I guess I was wrong. Hopefully this section doesn't take too long to pass, though. While we're waiting, I can actually look it up, too. Let me see. Let's see. "22 minutes and 25 seconds for the full thing." Let's see. Sunset only takes under 2 minutes. Okay. Alright, cool. So it's not gonna be too bad. I wish there was something like some tree for me to cut up here or something so I can summon Daffodil. Poor Daffodil's still stuck on the water. There we go. I'm sad to report that there are no cute doctors wandering the halls. See, I'm telling you that Lily's still alive, talking to Stella in the hospital like comatose. I've been thinking this since, not the beginning of the game, but like early, like a long time ago. Look at you, you look so frail. But even on your hospital bed, you're still gorgeous. Well, this whiskey bottle is half empty. Let's just go ahead and say you drank the rest. Do you remember that phone call you gave me last year? You had taken a sabbatical from work. I had to call the center to learn about it. Yeah, she took a few months off. She got some bad news. What a weird way to learn that your sister isn't doing well. So, you call me 2 weeks or something after. It's maybe 2 in the morning here. Your voice is shaking. I can hear you breathing heavily. You start talking about the trees around you in the air. No, hi Lily. No, I'm not doing well. Nothing. Just talking about the trees in the air. You said it was cold. That it felt like death, even over here. I didn't even know where here was. It went silent, and then you said you'd be home in a few days. I didn't know what to make of it. Were you sleepwalking? Was that the whole thing just a dream? I was scared. You came back and told Mom and me of your diagnosis. And now we're here together. Mom is awake. And I'm awake, and I'm holding your hand. If you can hear me, I love you so much, sis. You're not alone in the woods anymore. We're here, Stella. You'll never be alone. Last voyage. Oh, dang. Bring Stella and Daffodil to the Everdor. Oh, and we have to accept that we're not moving on and dying. That's kind of sad, though. It's more sad because this entire thing is like people accepting their death. And they are dead? Well, actually, maybe it's just them being in the hospital. So us taking them to the Everdor is them dying in the hospital. Maybe that's the interpretation of it. That's actually what I think makes more sense. But what makes it a bit sadder in this case is that we have like living family there, you know what I mean, watching us, wanting our character to obviously make and get better, and obviously taking us to the Everdor is not going to end with us being alive, unfortunately. I've been thinking this for a minute though, dude. No plot twist of Daffodil, though. Unfortunately. That was kind of weird. Are we gonna tell Buck? Is Buck gonna take our ship and become the best pirate captain in all of the Spiritfarer history? And yet all he can talk about is food. I can't talk to him? Oh, that's lame. I want to at least leave him on a full stomach. I have a lane interpretation. That since Stella worked in the hospital, met a lot of these spirits there, that Stella was just dreaming all this in her coma. I was thinking about that too, to be honest with you. Like, I was really considering for a while that none of this is actually real. So that is like one of my thoughts too on it, to be honest with you. Oh, this is it, guys. We gotta say bye to Buck, though, right? We gotta be able to say. I wonder if you had like any of the spirits left over. Can you like finish the game without taking all the spirits to the Everdor? I wonder if they react at all, or how they react differently to it, you know? That's sad though, because that means that Stella met Stanley as a kid in the hospital before he died. Like, it was sad as it was, but it's sadder still now. Oh, but they're coming back. Oh, that's cool. I was wondering if they were going to do something like this. Wait, I have to see if everybody else is here. Gwen! We have to check on Gwen first. Oh my gosh, they're all here. That's kind of heartbreaking. Stanley. Some characters I'm surprised, like, I like their character, but like they surprise me at how much I actually miss their characters when they moved on. Like Astrid and Giovanni, I actually miss like a lot more than I thought I would after they were gone, to be honest with you guys. A tool! How dare you disappear? I'm still hurt by that one, to be honest with you. Meh. Not Alice too. Okay, and then I don't think we're missing anybody else, yeah? Yeah. The only ones I didn't hug are the ones that we don't really care to. And then one last one for Lily too, of course. Alright, well, this is it, guys. From this point onwards, there's no turning back. Do you want to continue? It'd be interesting to subtly say anything at all throughout this entire time, which makes sense, but you gotta give us something. They did an amazing job though, with all the background and everything. Looks beautiful. It looks so good. I wonder who Kayron was in Stella's life beforehand. Maybe an old doctor who passed away that was her mentor or something. The cat. That's cool. I like that a lot. What a ballsy move. To let it just be what it is.
Flowing through the
They've done that a lot, honestly.
Memories that were left behind.
And I honestly love that. There's some areas where I feel like, you know, they could have done this, that, whatever, but being able to do stuff like that is, honestly, I think overall really good. You know what I mean? That way you're not meeting prior expectations and stereotypes, and you can really avert that really well. That was really good. I really, really enjoyed that. Is there an after credits or anything? I play too many Kingdom Hearts games. I think we just enjoy the music, honestly, and then see if it gives us anything afterwards.
A place, a world unseen to us all, but it's okay, we'll be together. And I'll take your hand and guide you through.
But she sings to the melody of the game, absolutely.
Takes to move on to a place, a world unseen to us all.
And everything being instrumental throughout the game too, adding lyrics at the very end adds this extra layer, like, of emotion to it. that you don't feel throughout the entire game. And I think it adds a lot to it.
And guide you through all the steps one takes to move on to a place, a world.
Wouldn't that be cool to alpha test for a game like this? Or just in general, of course, that you really loved?
But it's
That'd be so cool.
okay, we'll be together, my friend.
I wonder if any of the testers got like an honorable mention in the game, like if they got their name to be one of the spirits or something. In a Final Mix version of Kingdom Hearts 1, there is an optional boss you can fight. It's kind of like a post-game boss. And there was this kid who actually won. His name was Kurt Ziza. And they actually made his name the name of one of the bosses because he won a competition for it. I definitely want to look into that later and see. Like if anything like that happened, because that'd be so cool. And of course, all of our love to the Thunderlings across the world. Incredible without your support, the studio would not exist. That's so cool, dude. I sent the wiki in the Discord. If you go to the top section in the characters, it'll give you their background history. Oh, that's cool. That was Spiritfarer. My gosh. How, didn't you say there's a documentary? I don't know if we'll be able to do that today, but how long is that documentary? Oh, that's cool. I definitely got to go through that later when I have more time to. 40 minutes? We can do it if you guys want to do that now. I think that would be good. Let me go ahead and get that set up. I knew it was going to be a bittersweet ending, man, but that was sad. There we go. Cool. Now let me go ahead and get this set up. That way y'all can see too. You don't have to worry about the ad. We'll just ignore that for now. You just beat the Pantheon 3 yesterday? Nice, dude. Heck yeah. I'm just in the middle of, you know, massive trauma. Alright, let me know about the volume, but should be good. The following video contains discussions of death and personal tragedy that may be traumatizing to some audience. Viewer discretion is advised. Can confirm, this is depressing as heck. The Escapist.
We've always considered games as being something that had to be impactful. Thinking of games as an art form is not a given.
I will say his voice is kind of quiet, so if you guys need me to like raise the volume of it at all, let me know. I'm actually going to turn my master volume up a bit.
You have so many constraints and criteria to deal with.
How's it sound to you guys?
So many hurdles that make you not being able to accomplish something other than just like what you only can do. Games are an art form, and we can express things through games that only games can express. Games are much more than many people give it credit for.
How's that? You definitely want to watch this after you play the game. beginning. I just finished the game. This is already been going for this time. Audio good?
The idea of death in games, it's nothing new, and it was nothing new for us. We had a first game which was about a hero's quest to the afterlife, and we had the second game where the hero just never died and would just relive the things over and over again. You could say that as a studio, we're generally death obsessed, right?
The story behind Jotun kind of explores like a humanity in death in which you have to like fight to find your rightful place. Whereas in Sundered, which was the game we did afterwards, we wanted to see what it would mean to take what we did on Jotun and make it dark. Like, how dark could we get and still be able to communicate the experience of death through a side-scroller game, basically? It's a little fatalistic, I guess.
Now it's loud.
Everyone on the team wants to push our own games further. They want to push their own craft further as much as possible. So looking at, Jotun to Sundered, we knew that our ambitions are kind of always growing. We knew we wanted to make a game that was more impactful and a much more narrative as well with Spiritfarer. It's been quite a wild ride.
Spiritfarer is mostly like an open-ended question. What if we didn't fear death as much?
Spiritfarer was very inspired by Spirited Away and the idea of that hotel for spirits. We very quickly started brainstorming ideas around that, specifically about whether having like a hotel simulator was...
With all of its disorganized components just living together and having someone who runs around in this big house and trying to figure things out and do chores and take care of people, that was something that really sort of set our minds aflame.
From the broader perspective, we were influenced by Greek mythology with the idea of the river Styx and Charon, who ferries the souls of the dead.
Is it bad that, like, as soon as I saw him say one big, my brain instantly thought Big Hat, Stanley?
It's one of the decisions that we made earlier on, just to give us more flexibility, not being stuck on train tracks and having to deal with that from a level design perspective was kind of a nightmare.
In the meantime, we were thinking about the genre of game that we could do with this. We had just come off of Sundered, and Sundered was a Metroidvania, and it was very dark. So we were looking for something a little more lighthearted. So the idea of doing something in sort of like a farm sim genre, a Stardew Valley Harvest Moon thing, was very attractive for us. The idea that eventually came about that this game, that Spiritfarer, would be about dying, but not about killing, and about more coming to terms with death, that it wouldn't just be transporting spirits as Charon does in the Greek mythology. It would be more about helping them come to terms with death. So that this sort of came together gradually, but once that did come together, I think the team rallied around it.
I think we really wanted to explore death in another way that we had before in our two previous games. It's very much something that is very meaningful to us. And I think our goal was just to make it an easier conversation, even though it never is easy, but I think it
Before Nick came on the team, but I'd say the heart and soul that Nick and his team sort of worked into the project, really, we had to wait till he was there to really like have the vision sort of coalesce into something more solid.
So I joined the company after they had released Sundered. I was a fan of their work, to be honest. I was still in AAA back then. Assassin's Creed Origin was the last game I worked on at Ubisoft. Going from the rating, it's like, when I was at Ubisoft, you feel like you're working on a Ferrari, on a very high-end car, and that all you do is just a part of the steering wheel, but it's a very, very nice steering wheel. In Thunder Lotus and many of the indie companies, you feel like you're doing more of a custom-made rally car, and then you get to drive it. It's not as fancy as a Ferrari, but still, it's yours. You can drive it anywhere you want. We do have limits, of course. I mean, we're still going to be making games with teams of 10 to 15 people, so we will never be able to ship games like Horizon Zero. But it will be our game. Every person on the project contributes way more significantly to the project than anyone else on AAA.
The question of death and the question of all of these deep and heavy topics were kind of touchy too, right? I think we could have very easily fallen in an uncanny, cringy valley or written something in quite bad taste. I think what helped was, well, we had I think a fantastic direction from the creative director, Nick, who has a lot of experience dealing with death.
It is always more complicated to tackle a difficult subject matter. I do remember a very specific moment in my life where I was back to see my family in the south of France, and my beloved grandmother was dying. It was pretty disheartening. Just that person that had such an importance in my life, to see her basically fading away. And we knew because of the distance we couldn't really be there when she was gonna die. I remember talking to my wife in the car going back to where we lived, and I said, can I really live this, 10 times, 12 times in Spiritfarer? Is that, can I do this? I mean, can we? Are people gonna reject that right away? I mean, that's the first departure, the first player that dies, they were gonna be, I mean, screw that, I don't want to play that again, it's terrible, it's it makes me cry and I don't want to do it anymore. It just made me realize that, oh man, this is gonna be tough, people who are gonna play this, is gonna be heavy.
Writing for Spiritfarer really had me thinking about, what grief is. We often connect grief with death because it's the big one, and it's the big thing, death. But when you think about grief, my own interpretation of it is that grief is a very specific type of loss. And what makes it so special is that recognizable as a loss you can't ever recover from. And it forces you through this painful but sometimes liberating process of kind of reinventing yourself every time. That might sound harsh and sad, but life is a series of little and small griefs.
But at the same time, the game was meant to be lighthearted and to portray life as a bright thing and not be a terrible drama about people dying. There is a degree of joy that people have, and then death happens. And that's how it is. That roller coaster of emotion is exactly what life is about. I met tons of people who are in hospitals. My own brother is running a geriatric ward in south of France. Talking to someone who is dying, and that person knows she's dying, and she's got a couple of weeks ahead of her, maybe a couple of days, she doesn't really know, but she knows this is the end. Yet what she does is normal things. She still wakes up, she still brushes her teeth, go to the grocery store, buy some cereals, and fix herself a breakfast. And that's what she does. She's not trying to be on the edge of a cliff, proclaiming words written by a poet from years by. It's not happen this way. It just happens in the simplest of ways, in the simplest of context, and life goes on even before life is over. It is both a pretty big deal and not a big deal at all. It's extremely weird.
I'd say early on we were kind of aware that this was a sensitive subject, but it was a subject that we felt that if we went in with a great respect and a great desire for authenticity, that we would be able to create these characters who were meaningful for us. I think you can see that in the creative methodology that went around creating those characters. We're taking real stories from people around the dev team, of real people who've had big impacts on our lives and who've left a mark on us. Most of the characters in Spiritfarer are kind of a mix of a whole bunch of different people within those stories.
Nick sort of spearheaded that and really created a safe space for individually, like not as a team, but individual people who would eventually as a team, those stories were sort of modified, but a lot of like big pieces of people's stories would be the main inspiration for some of these characters.
I sent a signal to the whole team and said, look, I really want to have more personal stories. I think our characters can only be real if they're inspired by real events and real people and real persons that you had a connection with. I'd say 5 people came back to me with stories about their relatives who they thought had a pretty big impact on their lives and why and how they died and what did that mean to them, which led to extremely emotional moments, of course, as you can imagine.
He was just there to listen, basically. He was there to learn about their qualities and their flaws were, because one of their goals was to represent someone in their entirety without them being a carbon copy of that person, because obviously we just didn't want to do biographies.
All the names the Pyramid creates are people who influenced us in a way, but
okay,
not
that's cool.
all of them are a spirit, and not all spirits are inspired by entirely true characters. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I talked about my grandmother earlier. She's the biggest inspiration for the character Astrid, who's Lynx. She's a bit, self-centered. It's pretty fun. She's a good example of how much a character can be inspired by one person.
So basically, my grandma died at the beginning of the production. And so when I talked to him about it, I was very much in the process of coming to term with my grandma's passing. Me sharing that eventually became the character of Alice. She's not my grandma, but she does represent something that was inherent to my grandma and to maybe all the women in my family, which is to say this sort of like willingness to erase yourself for the well-being of someone else. So yeah, there was something extremely cathartic about getting to play a game where I could see this person who touched my life. I got to draw Alice's house. That was also kind of
that's so
cathartic
cool.
because it's heavily based on my grandma's house. The color scheme is her living room. Like the wardrobes and all those things, the hats, it's all inspired by her love of clothes and fashion. And in a way, I feel like I got closer to my grandma through making this game. I really hope that I did her justice.
Most of the characters are
imagine
inspired
playing
by
this game
real
if
life
you had
people,
an
have a bunch
inspiration,
of other things mixed in. They're
would be
not
so hard, but also
representations of them, but
really
they're
cathartic at the
inspired
same time,
by our feelings towards them. A good example being Gustav, the old German art curator, being very partly inspired by my own great-grandmother, which was a sculptor.
He's working on, we sat down and he ended up like sort of going through what kind of, the whole life of his great grandmother and what kind of person she was. And I could tell that she had such a deep and profound love for like visual communication and art. And it's like, okay, well, I have to do justice to that person now. I have to get across that this person had a passion for design and aesthetic through my own use of the medium, right? And that's extremely cool.
But the character is also inspired by my own relationship to art. And it's kind of me poking fun at myself for what I might have told at some parties at some point in my life when I didn't know better.
All the other team members, they contributed pretty big time on the project. From whoever you are, you still have something to contribute. That's what makes Spiritfarer even more personal, because to some degree, many of the characters you see in the game are inspired by fathers, uncles, mothers, grandmothers, brothers, friends. It's us there.
And of course the ads. This is really cool so far. The Alice one, I'm not gonna lie, almost got to me. That was kind of tough to watch. But it's so cool though, honestly.
It was our first game in which we had such a variety of characters, like such a huge cast. The design of the spirits were not all done after we had like the whole personality figured out. A lot of them were actually done before Nicholas joined us. So we kind of had a list of different like characters, and we're like, how would this one like fit this character? I would say that all of them ended up happily matching the personality. Gwen ended up being someone that was very proud, so that she was a very proud character, and that also represented the person she was based on.
To us, it was extremely important to make it feel not just through like the dialogue and the interaction and the gameplay, but also through the visuals that this person was a whole person. Joe gave me Atul's house to sort of finish up. I took that house and I added like frame with his like union friend and tools. That was such a fun thing to do because I was like, okay, who is Atul? He's a bon vivant, as we say in French, right? He's very Epicurean, but also he cares for his fellow man. He used to be a union leader. It's just like the kind of little things that you get to insert in the houses of your spirit.
I'm a little sad. I thought that was his family, like his wife or something. So I'm a little sad that it's canon that was a union friend, not that. But
that's just as much like character development than the quests themselves.
Spiritfarer's style was kind of a huge journey for us because we had done Jotun and then Sundered, but we were in a very dark place in terms of theme, in terms of mood. It took me a lot of iteration. I went through like a more like gritty, and then we were like, no, we need to like make people feel comforted in talking about death, because death is such a scary topic. And that was when I remembered Hiroshi Yoshida, a woodblock painter. I remember like all of his pieces bringing me serenity, and it made me want to visit the place that he painted, kind of like showing them to me through his
I can see
eyes,
a
which
lot
was
of the
really fun.
inspiration in his art,
The serenity of the landscape and the
Spiritfarer,
desire
honestly.
to explore was really,
really
something
cool.
we wanted to communicate through Spiritfarer, because we knew we were going to deal with a heavy subject. So we needed to kind of balance it out with something that was wonderful, that would keep you wanting to experience more. Because if we just throw sad death after sad death without ever like recompensing like the player, they're not going to stick around. All the very early tests, I guess, for style all included the ship. It initially included seasons also, but that ended up being
Yeah,
way too
much.
heavy and impossible to do. Because it would require essentially 4 different versions of the same level per level. Yeah, the ship was something that we figured out very early, and figuring out how the buildings stack up on each other. That was, I would say, essential to figuring out what the style would look like, because that was literally what you would be seeing, I would say, at least 80% of the time. I think like one of the ways that I found to make it cozy was to bring back the texture of paper, because that's kind of what the style is based on, like woodblock painting, watercolors and stuff like that. That feeling of nostalgia, that paper, that kind of material that feels homey, that feels good, and the colors are never, like there's no true black in the game, because we thought it was too much contrast. It's always like dark grays, dark blues, dark reds. It's about like balancing the colors and what people feel about those colors. Pastels are very comforting and easy on the eyes, but we also used contrast to our advantage. Like in Mickey and Bruce's house, it's all about whites and very like blingy, but that is meant to represent their character.
Max, the person who wrote Bruce and Mickey, I remember when I was assigned their houses, he came to me and he was like, okay, listen, these dudes, just huge douche. Like, think McMansion, Jersey Shore, some gaudy New Jersey mansion. And I was like, I got you. I know where I'm going with this. Also, fun fact,
I love
the
how even the
statues inside their
creator-
house initially had little nipples, but we had to take them off. They told us, yeah, you only have to take away the nipples on the lady statues. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm taking both nipples. Nobody gets nipples.
Okay.
We had to make the world of Spiritfarer a place where living felt nice, right? It was a pleasant place to inhabit, but it couldn't live, and where the player can experience those negative feelings.
If you go overboard, you kind of look like you're mocking the people who are feeling grief, and that's definitely not what we wanted to do. So I think a lot of it helps like the player feel comforted as soon as they get in without even having to do anything, but a lot of it goes through also gameplay, because the gameplay will not let you fail, and it will always kind of cradle you and be like, you'll be okay. Like, it's all right, you can try again, there's no problem.
I did notice that there's like no penalty.
Everyone was asking the question when we had the
per
pitch,
save
which
or
is,
anything.
okay, that sounds interesting, but how do you actually play this? What is it that you do in the game? One of the very first things I did when I joined the project was to draw the game on a board. I had the boat, I had encounters on the boat, I had you going on islands to basically recruit people, find them, bring them back on the boat to do something with them that we didn't really know back then would be. And then at some point you get to bring them to some place, and that's where they leave the boat. That was the general loop of the game, and mixed in this was the concept of light farm simulation, basically. Tending to crops, watering plants, planting seeds, having a light management aspect of things growing up and expanding.
This weird project of a management platformer with narrative elements. A lot of things were still kind of murky, like the scale of the narrative elements of the game were very ill-defined.
The biggest thing that changed actually was that the spirits were not the one who mattered. You had a crew, and you forged relations with the crew members, but the spirits are nameless, faceless. A bit like what you saw in Spirited Away, was one of the big inspirations. So in Spirited Away, you have that scene where you see ghost spirits getting out of the boat to enter the bathhouse. So there was those things that I changed pretty early on because I wanted to explore the relationship with people who were deceased and not you doing that as a job and you didn't care about who they were. Also, the idea of events and platforming around the ship and platforming on islands. It wasn't that much of a given that Spiritfarer would be a platformer, but considering that we had a very nice character that moved really well, having some platforming elements felt right for the game.
The platforming was surprised by how great it felt. But then what do we do with that? We could have done a platformer management game, but that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted a more narrative-driven game. And then when you do that, you kind of have to dial down the platforming and the difficulty and the challenges. In the end product, there's almost no part of Spiritfarer where the platforming really is challenging, and it doesn't matter. The platforming is fun, it feels good, it enhances the experience in a kind of accessory way.
And then every concept of caring relationship, so understanding spirits' moods, hugging them. We had to make a specific animation for each of those hugging feature. So the concept of kindness was, slowly appearing in Spiritfarer more and more and more and more. You care for people, you care for things, you care for your crops. Anyway, I think Spiritfarer is long, probably very much longer than we anticipated as well. But that's in huge part due to the farm sim aspect. The time you need to explore places, to transform resources, to gather resources. I think the mundane aspect of things and the chores aspect is kind of how farm sims handle things. When you play Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or even to a degree Animal Crossing, you do have to repeat the same things over again. It puts you in a position of repetition that is comforting in a way. But the mundaneness of it is also, contrasted by the whimsy of the world. Like, the world is really conceptually complicated. You do encounter weird creatures and you have fantastical events. So the coziness comes from the fact that everything you see, and even to a degree everything you can do, is quite relatable, be fantastical.
It's so many disparate elements that can be arranged in so many different ways. One of the most compelling process was that the core of the game is one of management. That's the core gameplay loop. You accumulate resources and you spend them to progress through the story. The core content of the game is the narrative content. So even if we had a whole loop, if we didn't work at all on the narrative element, you don't write a single line of dialogue. Well, you don't have any rewards to give, because the rewards of the management loop is narrative content.
Spiritfarer is not a game for everyone. And to a degree, there are some moments that many players can feel are a bit of a drag, a bit long. The loop. The fact that the chores are kind of repetitive is the point. Some players are bored, and I get it, but if you take the time to accept this, then you go into a state that is much more an acceptance to the message.
It required a lot of fine-tuning afterwards, but we were really relieved when we realized that, the game worked. The concepts,
I love the death animation whenever you're cutting the tree down, but seeing it like at 3 times speed like that is hilarious. Dang ads.
I had a couple of concerns. We seem to be enjoying what we had set forth because of the inside testings, but we weren't sure how exactly the mass amount of people would end up receiving it, and if they would be receiving it positively or negatively, and how they would end up coping with what's going on inside the game. So that was one of our main worries.
I wasn't sure people were going to get it. As a game, if I had to explain it to someone, I had a hard time. The elevator pitch that we eventually came up with, that it was a cozy management game about dying, if you tell that to someone, they have no problem buying that game. So we have a side-scrolling sort of platformy game, which is a management game, but which has heavy narrative elements, and it's cozy and it's going to make you feel things. You sort of hope that you're going to be able to communicate it. You're going to hope that they're going to understand it, and then once they've understood it, you're going to hope that they're going to be like, yeah, I'd play that. You have to lead with something when you're first announcing it. You can't tell everybody everything about your game and hope that they get it all. You dumb it down or you simplify it. literally, like, and this is pretty rare, we had 2 trailers in the works. We had 2 trailers prepared that were fairly different. One of them was leaning hard on the sort of, learn to say goodbye aspect of it. It wasn't leaning very hard on the management, like manage a boat aspect.
That's the trailer I saw.
And so we went with that.
Okay.
We sort of secured a deal with Microsoft to get announced during their big event during E3 2019.
I think it was a good choice that they did that because it really set the tone of the game, like the actual message. This is what it's about. So even while you're doing everything else in the game, the management, the farming, the platforming, all this, that, whatever, like where it's leading to. And I think that anticipation of, I'm having this good time, I'm learning about these characters, I'm enjoying these characters. You have this looming anticipation of they're gonna be gone. When is it going to happen? So I think, if anything, that elevated the game. I think that was a good choice, personally.
E3 was a pretty special moment for us. We were extremely lucky to be selected by Microsoft ID to be there.
Did they release in 2019? Kingdom Hearts 3 came out in 2019, so that's kind of funny.
On the big stage,
I didn't know about
right
this game
after
until
Keanu
recently.
Reeves. I mean, it even became a meme, like the fact that someone shouted at Keanu Reeves on stage for Cyberpunk 2077.
Is really going. You're
I remember that meme.
It was like, what the hell is happening?
funny.
It's just completely crazy. There was Keanu Reeves on stage with us, and then a minute later, bam, Spiritfarer. And we didn't know. And to be contrasting, and they did their job pretty well. I was floored. It was something that is beyond words of, it's hard to describe the feeling you get when you see the game that no one knew about, that you've been working on for years, happening there at that moment. It was extremely crazy.
Wait, what is that game? Yeah, it was super cool to see Keanu, but there was this game. What is that game? And we were that game.
It was really awesome. It just blew up overnight to a certain extent, and we doubled and then tripled and quadrupled the amount of players that I was interacting with on a daily basis. So it kind of just blew my mind. And then when we ended up going to demonstrate our games and people actually had it in their hands, we had some people actually reflecting on the show floor, this actually touched me quite a bit because of XYZ. And that's when it kind of clicked in my mind, oh, we actually have something that everyone can, to a certain extent, relate to.
That's super
So
cool, man.
another person came up to play the game, and this was, I don't know, I guess within the first dozen people outside of the studio that had actually played the demo of the game. And this person playing our demo was legitimately brought to tears by it. My immediate reaction was being taken aback that in this sort of crowded space of a bunch of strangers in this
I was
sort
expecting
of
them to say a story
neon
like
lit
this, to be
with
honest with you.
lasers sort of space. We were literally next to Doom Eternal. There were 4 screens of Doom Eternal and then us. And this person just sort of sits down and plays 15 minutes of our demo and is brought to tears by it. I just found it beautiful.
It's very corporate and it's very public, so usually people have their guard up when they go in to play your games, and you expect that. You don't expect a 100% impression, because people are more comfortable at home and they will be more at ease to let themselves experience stuff. But that actually that, I think that's when I went oh okay,
we gotta work
we gotta
extra
work
hard now.
hard. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back. we gotta make sure
We
that
have
we do this
expectations
right.
to meet.
Everything about that was surreal. And, to be clear, not everybody, nobody else who played the demo that day cried, but one person did. And it's this is why you're in gaming. You want to have a legitimate experience and sort of share that experience with other people. Long after I've departed this industry or whatever, that'll probably stay with me. I guess we had a constant sort of barometer of how people might be connecting to our project throughout as soon as we announced it and up to launch. Because we constituted a solid community around this that just grew over with the community. It's okay, we're gonna have a mailing list, and instead of having that boring mailing list where you just sort of send out here's a new GIF or whatever, it was more okay, so here's a little about the game. Now you respond to this, and we'll have a conversation. Invariably, compared to what you would have on a Twitter or Discord or whatever, it's like you're being pen pals, right? So you have individuals in the community just reaching out as a response to a fairly low emotion newsletter with a very emotionally raw sort of message, right?
people really got attached quickly to these characters, and people were just sharing those intimate stories. Everyone was really grateful that we a lot through their own loss and their own grief, and some that didn't even ever saw grief in their life were really grateful knowing that at some point someone in their life might eventually pass on.
There's like an immense privilege of working on a game where people feel that vulnerable, and not only that, they're gonna open up to you to describe, here's the pain I'm going through. And if ever it gets heavy, obviously we encourage people to seek professional help and that sort of stuff. But some of it is just like, I just need to get this off my chest. The dev team was sort of being a little vulnerable about putting this out in the world and putting so much of themselves into it. So to have that reflected in the player and have the players sort of reach out and say like, yeah, same, very powerful for all of us.
At that point, it was just a huge sigh of relief that initial vision was kind of, correct. You're going to connect to the spirits. You're going to feel something when they leave, when you bring them to the Everdoor. At that point, I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to work. But then followed kind of the craziest 7 months of the game's production.
Worldwide this morning, growing concern over
more Americans into virtual lockdown.
12 new countries have reported their first cases.
The number of people affected by the virus around
the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect
that must have been really
the American
crazy timing,
people.
This is a potentially very serious public health threat. This is a constantly changing situation.
It's very professional and real. It made the experience so much more special. I bet, man.
You must stay at home.
Oh, he said he's talking about the mailing. Well, I guess while the commercial's going, because that's what this is, right? No? Oh, it's just...
We went remote.
He says, I remember joining the mailing list. I was in a dark place in my life when I first played this, and to have real people respond really helped me, honestly. We sent emails back and forth several times. That's amazing. That's something that I think, they definitely get rewarded for, because, like you said, it just makes it so much more personal. Putting in that extra effort really does so much, honestly.
In March 2020.
I think that's so awesome.
So the whole end of production for Spiritfarer was done remotely. Yeah, I'd say the impact of the pandemic was obviously very big in terms of teamwork, for sure. If you look at sports teams practice together, right? You can't pass them, right? Or not as easily anyways. Those happy accidents that happen when you go to the coffee machine and you bump into someone and you're mulling through a problem in your head, and then something lights up a spark and it inspires you. It depends also though on where you're at in production. Anyways, in our experience and from what we've seen over the last year is that if you're super focused on shipping the game and you unfortunately have to do some overtime, well, doing that at home was way better actually, because you're cutting down on travel time, you're less worried about certain things, you're already in that focus to ship the game, and then that focus helps. I'd say one thing that I've been talking to over the last year now is that just how lucky we are to be making games, how lucky we are to be a technology-driven business, because for us going remote, we were already using Discord, we're already using all these communications and all that. I think everyone would have preferred not to have been in this situation, obviously. But in that sense, we're very fortunate to be making games.
It's extremely weird, the world shutting down around us and us starting to hunker down in our homes and with our relatives and or just by ourselves. So it was tough to pick the game. And I was really, really afraid that the game would be actually received negatively because of this. I mean, oh no, not another game about death when we are so much surrounded by it and by the dread of it.
We were very much head down, trying to get the best game possible done and trying to release it when we could release it. We didn't have the luxury to take this thing that we had worked on for 3 years and say, well, now's not the time. On a more human side, it's like we presumed and assumed that this would be a good time for it. Like not in a capitalistic sense, but more in the sense that people needed sort of like a hug. We had seen, obviously, something like Animal Crossing do extremely well and be received like an escape from what were terrible times for everybody. It didn't feel like there was any way you could read this project as profiting from like the situation. Like it hadn't been created in that mindset. Communicated the game like we were upfront. It was like, it's about dying. It is. Like if you wanted to just play it as an easy sort of romp, well, sorry, you eventually that story has to end.
We were at a point where it's kind of the point of no return. Where
Did I
it's
just see
too late to
Daffodil break
at a
one?
point where
What?
it's kind of the point
That's
of no
a thing?
return.
I'm
where
kinda sad
it's
now.
too late to cut
I've
content.
never seen Daffodil do
you know,
that.
you need to
That's
ship
awesome.
and you need to hit
gotta
certain
look that up later.
marketing opportunities. Plus, at the end of 2020, we knew that next-gen consoles were coming out, so we wanted to make sure that we were launching before next-gen came out, just to make sure that we weren't old news, old generation release at that point. You know, it was a kind of a wild ride there. On top of being, in remote, that was a huge challenge, but an incredible accomplishment for us.
Just get good. We don't care, Allstate. Yeah, Daffodil had special animations when you played 2-player. Oh yeah, I forgot at the beginning you said that you had like a 2-player version that you could do that. That's so cool, dude. If I ever have kids or whatever, I might play this with them. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Spiritfarer has so much richness and depth.
Spiritfarer, simply put, is one of my favorite indie games.
It's a good game that becomes great over time.
I think it's fantastic, and I recommend it to literally anyone.
Agreed.
Tons of very, very flattering reviews, and I was floored by the amount of praise we got. We've received so many letters from people, telling us, thank you for what you did. And yet I feel like I didn't do anything for them. I was just like telling stories of being a lesson at all.
We had a lot of letters coming in, and I would say, I think I cried at every one of them. So thankful and so happy they had found something they resonated with, and a topic that is hard and often you're not very encouraged to talk about. I don't know, to be able to touch so many people is something that I never thought would happen, I guess, not in this way.
I guess that's what I was hoping for, right? I don't know if it surprised me so much as it made me happy, right? It was like, we really were hoping to provide the catharsis and also like this feeling that someone else gets it, that someone else has been through it and you're not the only one. I think what scared us the most was that it would come across as like generic platitudes, like the kind of things that you would find in a "I'm sorry for your loss" greeting card or something. It was important to us to feel like it was authentic and that it came from a real place.
All this animation makes me want like an anime or
One
like
of the
a
most
show,
touching
like
letters we
Spiritfarer now.
received
Just to see how
was a letter
spirits
from a
like
nurse
interact
in
with
the
each other
US,
more.
and she was basically writing to us that she had given up hope on her work, which is a very, very tough work. Being a nurse is an incredibly ungrateful job. It's really hard. And she played Spiritfarer, and thanks to the game, she took back her mantle of being a nurse. I thought it was really cool to read. Completely not expected. I mean, you don't expect when you make a game to have people expressing such a strong impact in their own daily lives and who they are. Many people could, in a way, say goodbye and mimicking that to the feeling they had of not being able to say goodbye to their grandfather who passed away because of COVID.
For a lot of people, they remind them of an elderly character, Alice the Hedgehog, that struggles with dementia at the end there, and it's.
There was this one woman, I think from herself, and Summer's story really resonated with her. She felt like the game really sees that is so all-encompassing and how terrifying it is. She sent us a really, really touching letter, and I would be this bear, right? A little bit like mangled, but still there, resilient.
A lot of their subject matters were really just direct, and they never really expected a message from my end. It's really we're able to create such a project that dealt with such topics so that they could have a good ear to listen to what happened in their lives and the stories they wanted to share. So it just went hand in hand perfectly.
The feedback was around Gustav's quest, which
that one still
admittedly
hurts me,
was
honestly.
kind of rushed at some point. I think I did a bad job of really framing the character and explaining well his feelings toward his own disabilities. When I wrote up about his disabilities, I took a lot of inspiration from my own experiences with epilepsy. And then kind of called us out on Twitter in a way that initially I felt was kind of unfair to us. But then I cooled down a bit, and respect as I thought I had, I've hurt someone. I have this responsibility as a creator to others as well. Because, I can connect with others with pain, but I can also hurt them. I'm really glad we made some public acknowledgement of the problems in Spiritfarer's writing. We apologize be able to more respectfully express what I was trying to express. We do have a blind spot there. We don't know what the disabled community. We had this very cool cooperation with an organization called Able People Feel, how the disabled community feels towards disability, but also towards ability and towards the prejudice to admit that I've hurt someone, but all in all, it was a great experience.
Very vocally, some of our fans is being lost and what was, I guess, retained. There were a lot of people were like, this is tough. This is making me cry, sort of thing. Kind of beautiful about people who proudly proclaims that they've been brought to tears by a game. It seemed like a net positive for everybody, and this is too real, or I'm not ready. There is probably something about the game that says that it's okay. It's okay. Like, if you don't want to go
mark that you're some people, or they say they're not ready, or this is too much for me. I think that's a good thing, that your game has that much of an effect, honestly.
First day of E3, Yahtzee came, so he sat down, and we had a speech with it, because the game was barely playable by itself. We had to action of it that wasn't really represented down, and he didn't say anything. I said, you want me to explain? And he just barely looked at me and said, fine, okay, sure, so you play the game. But he played for a very long time. Many people are very, polite at E3 at very least. I mean, the developers out there, you're not gonna, hey, dude, your game sucks. They don't say that to anyone. So you just sit up, play, and then you live in real life and go test something else. So he didn't say anything, not one word. He just stood up and left. I was like, oh my god, what? I think he hated the game. Who was that guy? And then someone told me, yeah, I think that's Ben Crushaw. It's like, what, really? Like Yahtzee? Yeah. Like, wow. Yeah, okay, that makes total sense. I mean, bluntly honest with people for that many years, I don't think you go to E3, he'll look sideways at you. He don't want to be punched in the face by some, dev who I was expecting his review. And when he said things that were exactly what we wanted the people to feel.
And of course, that lovely house you built for Dennis the Slug stands empty on your boat for the rest of the game, and by the end, your ship is struggling to stay afloat under the weight of the memories of times past, both good and bad, until the day we let it go. Metaphors!
It was such an awesome review. I mean, because you expect so little of it, you think, okay, he's gonna see all the problems, and there are many problems to me in the game. I can tell you that not one developer who ships the game thinks their game is perfect. Not one. We all see only problems, from bugs to things we could have done better, from things we had to cut down because of time, from things we had to change because it couldn't fit. Anyway, we only see a notion of problems. We really hope people would saw.
Hang on.
Because it couldn't be the game.
Is he my spirit animal with this right now? I've mentioned many times. I thought you didn't like hanging out with me. Is he talking about killing the freaking sheep on the boat? Because honestly, after I make lamb chops, I'm sorry if that's what he's. I just relate to this. Just this.
And it was awesome.
Some unsympathetic world, anything that makes me feel something is worth celebrating. That's why I don't take the price tags off my underpants.
We make video games, right? That's what we do. We're not curing. For me, it's really important impact on a lot of people, and that's really just. And she has, a smaller number of people. So if we can kind of bring that with his lives, it's incredibly sustaining and gratifying. And I think for us, anyways, one of the most important things we could do as game developers.
Spiritfarer is the game that is the most personal, the game that is the closest to me, yet the one that I feel is the most shared with others. It's a very satisfying feeling, because you feel like what you're doing is not entirely yours, but you get to share with people who think like you in a way, and you are in control of it. Even if it's a bit in the game, is to have a takeaway from it. You play the game and then something should resonate with you not just as a player, but as a human being. That level of interaction with the virtual world, how you engage with that world, makes you feel emotions in a different level than watching a movie or reading a book. What we try to do at the company and what we try to do in the studio, and from Jotun to Sunder to Spiritfarer, you get to see that line So whatever we do next, it will still be exactly this. It will still be a game that players can take away something from it. Player can think of the experience they had and gain some experience much more than many people give it credit for.
Yeah, looks like it. That was really, I think, to the whole thing, and it gives a whole new perspective on it. To be honest with you guys, I kind of eventually, it might be a little while because we have a lot of other games on our list, but I might go play the game again on my own eventually. I haven't dealt with anybody with cancer. Well, sort of. So Summer having cancer the entire time didn't really click for me per se. Of course, the game did tell you at the very end, so we did kind of get that, but like stuff like that, it's super cool to kind of get, you know, those answers both at the end of the game and, you know, more about how it came. The one with Alice's, you know, the one who Alice was inspired by mostly, with that girl talking about it, that one kind of hit me hard, like a lot harder than I thought it would, to be honest with you. But what an amazing game, man. Honestly, and it's hit and touched so many people. I just think it's wonderful. That's the most you can really ask for any game, any piece of, you know, art, media, anything when you're telling stories. And this is one of the reasons why, me personally, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm really, I like watching people play games or watching shows and stuff. I literally just watched Oscar from the Cocoa Couch, if you haven't seen him, you know, like that whole series again, and it was amazing. I just love shared experiences because of, you know, the emotions that it takes you through. Just, you know, I don't know, I just think that's what general can do is just share experiences. I think it's so amazing, honestly, and it's one of the best ways really to kind of, you know, because things aren't really so black and white. You know, I can say, you know, sorry, like see this other character who's going through the exact same thing, and that hits you so much different, you know what I mean? So I hope you can see why I like it so much and why it's one of my top games. Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely up there for me too, honestly. This game was amazing. So I definitely appreciate the recommendation for sure. I'll let you guys know what we're going to be doing next here soon. Probably. That's been a bittersweet end to Spiritfarer. Honestly, what an amazing game. That one's going to stick with me for a while. Tier list per se, but I will say, like, you know, really good ones towards the end that you said are more S tier, Gavin. But I still think Gwen is still my favorite, but you know, what's her name towards the end, the Bat Spirit is definitely up there. I really like Giovanni. Atul is very high up there as well for me. I loved Astrid. Alice is probably a little bit lower on the list than like Atul and Astrid, but she's still up there. But yeah, there are a ton of good ones, man. Stanley's really high up there too. That one hurt, but that was such a wonderful game, man. Such a wonderful experience. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I definitely did, and I will see you guys for the next stream. God bless, and you have a great day. Peace.